All right, here with head cross-country coach Jamey Harris after a long, traveled, and fun weekend in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. You went back, competed in the Paul Short Run. Tell us about that experience for the athletes and for you. First time going there as a coach for Humboldt, or what was that like?
First time I've been to that meet. I've actually raced on that course before, but first time I've been to that meet. So
what was it like for the athletes, and kind of describe the races a little bit?
Travel's always a little bit more challenging coming out of here, and so that was something to deal with. Is just a long trip to get there. Time zones, just the timing of that last flight. It was hard to, we either, I remember when they would actually feed you a meal on the flight, and they don't do that anymore, and they don't even really have like a meal option, like they had snacks. And so it was tough to time like the meal. It was either before like a 3 p.m. before 3 p.m. flight, or after we land after 11 p.m. And so or you try to figure out a meal that you can buy and then just sit on the plane with you for a couple hours before you eat it. It was that was challenging, so some people were up until 2 a.m. because they wanted to go eat after we landed, and baggage claim and things like that don't work super efficiently, and so it was a weird day getting there. Great, beautiful part of the country to see, super lush and green, and we were just like a week or two early for some really spectacular fall colors, but you could see a little bit of that, and it was just cool, like seeing parts of the country that that they haven't. As we're driving out into Bethlehem, we were kind of driving through some of rural Pennsylvania, and then later to get into Philadelphia, such a historic city, obviously. Some amazing, really eclectic architecture there, and the Liberty Bell, Independence Hall, where the Declaration of Independence was drafted, and the Constitution was ratified. It was like Ben Franklin's grave. You gotta flip a penny onto it apparently, and for good luck. So I got a heads up. So a year of good luck. Get ready for that. Just really kind of an awesome experience from that standpoint, and then to experience such a huge meet that I don't know that there's anything on the West Coast that compares to a men's race over 47 teams, I think, on the line there. Seemed like
it was Division I, Division II, Division III,
all
across
divisions
the board from all over the U.S.
And I think like I said, 47 in the men's race, and 31 of them were Division I in our race.
Wow.
Some of the top D2 and D3 teams in the nation. So it was super competitive, really crowded, even though there's plenty of space on the course. It's a challenging course. There was some muddy stuff. It got way better from Friday to Saturday, so most of it. But there were still some muddy spots. There were some spots where people were going down, spots where people were losing shoes in the mud. None of that happened to any of our people. Charlotte went down later in the race, but that was more of just like a fatigue thing than the mud or the conditions or anything like that.
Men's were 27th overall.
Yeah.
With Seb having 26, he ran a 26:03, which is a little like the last time I saw his stats, he's usually running about a 25:30.
Yeah.
So is that just because of conditions and all that?
Conditions definitely made time slower. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if that was about maybe about a minute. Yeah. That was off. But it's hard to compare from course to course and different conditions, even on the same course. I'd say just based on the people that he beat and didn't beat, that was a solid performance for Seb. And James and Luis, behind him, solid performances from them. I think that's closing the gap from the last race some. I think I don't think it's necessary that there's any gap. I think James and Luis and some of our other guys can do anything pretty much that Seb can do in a cross country race. The confidence growing. It was definitely a step in the right direction, especially for those three. And Dominic had really probably the best race of anybody. Really came through. So yeah, I don't put a lot of credence in the times, but like in the gaps between people, that's where the times are kind of useful in assessing things.
Right.
But the actual finish time, not that useful.
Could you talk about how originally, I believe both Humboldt teams were supposed to be in the white races? How did it get determined that it was kind of a last second sort of ish bump up to the brown race, which was kind of like the middle race, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
Right?
So
can you explain like what went into that?
I just I emailed, called, and texted, until they paid attention to me and pointed out just a few facts that made it clear that the brown race was more appropriate for our men's team. Not that there were teams that would have beaten us, in the white race, but being in that brown division, brown section, gave us an opportunity to compete head to head with some of the D2 teams that we wanted to compare ourselves to. So I really wanted us to be in that race, and so I just pointed out some things that compared us to some of the other teams in that event, in that race, that the race directors agreed that we belonged in that race.
And women's were 26 overall, and they ran the white kind of section.
Yeah.
And how are you just feeling about women's performance overall?
That was also sort of a mixed bag, kind of on both sides, for both the men and the women. Reese, I think, ran really well. Not 100% optimal, but I think it was a great experience. I think it was a great experience for everyone. Even the race, even if they didn't race well, I think they learned a lot of things and experienced an event that was like kind of overwhelming for some people. And I think that just Matilda specifically was like a deer in headlights the whole way, until about the last 800, and then all of a sudden she shot by a bunch of people. But that's a great learning experience for a freshman, to have. And when she gets in an event like that in the future, she'll be better prepared for it. For Reese specifically, I told her before the meet, you could finish in the top 10 in this race. And I could tell she absolutely did not believe me at all. And then when she found herself in the top 50 and in the top 40, she just kept moving up throughout the race, and finishing, I think, 23rd. Now she's like, oh, yeah, you're right. I probably could have finished in the top 10, if I believed that from the get-go. So she just is gaining confidence and raising her perception of what she's capable of. And, that's part of the learning experience, and it's about right for a sophomore. So, Alexa had a really, really solid race, really made good progress throughout the race in moving up and kind of closing the gap toward Reese a little bit. So I was really pleased with the way she ran. And then some of the others not as well. Jess handled things pretty, a little bit better. The freshmen struggled more with being sort of overwhelmed and anxious about new conditions, new type of race. It's a huge, there was, 40-something teams in our race, but the 127 teams out there and a bunch of D1 names that they recognize, and even though we may not be racing head-to-head against some of those teams, still just the fact that there's people there. Parts of that course is just a wall of screaming parents and teammates and fans and so on. So it's a lot to take in, and so some of them were more prepared for that and managed it better, but all of them are going to get a lot of learning out of it. So.
You mentioned the learning, the experience, what a lot of these people took from racing in an event like this. How does that help you going 2 weeks from last Saturday? Now you're going to be going to the Santa Clara Bronco Invitational. What does a meet like that do for something that's like this upcoming meet in a couple of weeks?
Not so much for Bronco, more for like our conference championship. So Bronco, we're gonna. I don't think we're going to take any women to that meet. I think they're all ready to just train for a couple weeks and go have a really good one at the conference championships. For the men, we're going to find out who our last 2 guys that are going to be in that 10-man squad that we take to conference are. And so, pretty much our top 8 that we saw at Paul Short are going to wait and race at the conference championships on the men's side, and the 7 that ran at Paul Short are going to wait and race at the conference championships on the women's side. But having been in that huge race, approximately 80 to 100 person conference championships will be a little less overwhelming and daunting as far as the scope of the event. Certainly a championship is going to raise the adrenaline level for everybody, but that'll also be balanced by the fact that, hey, this is not as huge of a meet as we've already dealt with. So
Gotcha. Okay. Well, good luck, and well, in a couple weeks, and good luck with training this week with both your teams, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
Thanks, Jimmy.